You're watching the Top 6 Show, the original multi-club fan channel. Make sure you're following us now on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. The link is in the description below. The Top 6 Show. It's Friday night, the last Premier League weekend before another boring international break. But there's some big games this weekend, some huge talking points tonight as well. A brilliant panel for you, including Egal repping Arsenal. Got two Liverpool fans tonight in Tom Little and Rom's back with us again after a while away. David's actually here. He's decided to take a break from working all the time. He's a very hard-working man, is David. He really, really is. He's here with us repping Chelsea. And of course, LB is here himself. City Chelsea this weekend. We'll be previewing that on this show. Of course, we want to hear your opinions, thoughts, feelings about what's going on. Make sure like buttons have been smashed and that you have subscribed and turn that bell notification button on as well. We might be joined as well later by somebody called Will Stewart, who's a Spurs fan, whom says it will come on the show anytime to challenge me. So I've sent him the link. Hopefully he turns up for the show today. But I wanted to start, gentlemen, with Tottenham. I do want to start with Spurs because not only is the doggy out suspended, Romero's out for a few games. It looks like Van der Ven is going to be out for anywhere between 6 to 8 weeks. And then they've said today that James Maddison had a persistent ankle injury when he was signed. That's been aggravated this week, and it could be anywhere between 1 to 3 months out. Question is, are Tottenham now in trouble that they've lost 3 of their 4 best players? Well, 4 of their 5 best players this season, and for 2 of them, it's going to be well after Christmas until they come back.
Yeah,
close out.
They go. Honestly, I don't want to celebrate injuries, but the reality is they're gonna get injured. These guys, injuries happen in football, and their squad depth is not that good. I know Arsenal squad depth's not the best. I'm not sure. I'm not gonna say my squad depth's the best, but the reality is theirs is paper thin. Everything's been going their way so far this season. It's been really good for Tottenham, and now this is where Ange needs to weather the storm, and we find out what they're really made out of. And I think it's gonna culminate in them dropping points more often than not in these easier games where they would have wiped out teams.
These next 2 games are massive because they've got no defense for the next 3 games.
They laughed about Timber's injury, and now karma's a bitch.
Do you know what it is? That's the stone cold fact. Who are they playing in their defense while Romero and Van der Ven are out? Are we going back to Eric Dyer and Pierre-Emile Højbjerg centre-back partnership?
It's either going to be that, or I think Davis is out at the minute. If Davis is fit, then it will be Davis at left back and potentially Emerson Royale as centre back.
Do you know what's crazy though?
Loving is going to end very soon.
Egal, the Maddison injury though was inevitable because him and Son, if you realize, they rarely complete 90 minutes. It's almost like they were nursing the injury throughout the course of this season. But I think for the Spurs fans that kept their feet on the ground, you can't predict these injuries, but then they won't be as upset. But the ones that actually genuinely believe they were going to challenge for a title, even if this 1 to 11 stage fit, I always said they at least need to get to January, then reinvest. But did anyone really take them serious? And I know it's easy to say now once they've had injuries and suspensions. Romero, that's just Romero being an idiot. Udogie, this happens. He's young. He will learn from this. But he should have got sent off before the original red anyway. But I don't think any of us are really surprised. I think they dropped points against Wolves, and I think their fixtures when they come back are City, and I forgot who the other club are. But I think it's a tough time for Spurs, man, and the demise will start from tomorrow, in my opinion.
Here. It's fully here. Let's not act like if Chelsea didn't have a fully fit squad to start the season, they wouldn't be better off also. Everybody faces injuries, but they've been very fortunate with injuries up until this point. Romero has kept his head on screwed properly, and this is where we find out what Ange Postecoglou is actually made out of, because up until this point, they haven't faced too many good teams. And you know what they've done is they've been somewhat flat trap bullies, destroying some of these smaller teams on the table.
The thing is, though, bro, they've not even been destroying them. I mean, they beat Palace 2-1, Fulham 2-0, Luton 1-0. Sheffield United 2-1.
Luton on a good side, Luton on a tough side. Yeah, let's not down.
Oh, yeah. Don't be shameless, man. Oh.
Yeah, they're tough. They're tough, man. You don't want to play Luton anytime soon.
If they don't slide, Ange truly deserves all 3 of those Manager of the Month he's won. Because that squad right now, with that stupid high line, is done for. Like,
David, do you think that they will continue with this high line now they have no pace at centre back? Because Mickey Van der Ven,
100%.
credit where credit's due, that man's recovery pace is electric. It reminded me very much what Rio could do, what Van Dijk can do. Without that recovery pace, I know Spurs fans go on about we don't want to yield upon the manager's principles, but surely, David, they're going to have to with no pace at centre-back now.
He's got that Jurgen Klopp in him. He's not changing. He's saying that's the philosophy. You stick to it. I don't care what's going on. It's what he's going to do, because he had 9 men against my team who can't break down people anyway, and still decided, oh yeah, this is what we're going to do. So whether it's Højbjerg, if they brought Giroud and Giroud was the only fit person, they're still playing a high line. He doesn't care. They're going to keep doing it. So I'm expecting people just running behind and have fun.
Do you know what I find funny about the highline? Just before you go, Terry, right? Not all Spurs fans, but you had some Spurs fans calling Andrew genius. Now, the only reason why this word was even brought up is because of Chelsea's incompetence in front of goal. If this is Arsenal, Liverpool, or City, that ends about 8-9-1, and the word genius doesn't even get mentioned. Because Chelsea's because let's be honest, I think there was about 25 minutes from the equaliser to Chelsea actually going ahead. I think they went through about 5-6 times and they just couldn't score. But on the flip side, Tottenham fans might caveat that and say it's a lack of respect. They might be like, we know Chelsea aren't that good, so we knew we could play that highline. It goes both ways, but I don't think Spurs fans should be calling Andrew genius.
That 20 minutes where Chelsea Football Club could not figure out how to run onside from their own half was hilarious. It was genuinely hilarious.
Spurs made it easy for them as well.
Mudryk failed to run onside. Once they figured it out, it was over. But that 20-minute period and the way Chelsea's fans' heads dropped, there must have been some Chelsea fans going.
I genuinely think the players looked at the line and went, "Nah, there's no way." And they just went, "Do you know what? We're just going to keep doing this until it works." And then eventually they went, "Oh yeah, if we pass it around, they're screwed anyway."
Do you know what it kind of reminded me of? You ever watched those films like the Mighty Ducks, right? Where Coach Bombay will get the team to do something that nobody else has ever done in hockey, and the opponents get all confused and they score a goal. That's how Chelsea were behaving. It's almost like they couldn't believe that 9 men were sitting on the halfway line. It kind of muddled their brains. They didn't know what to do. Yeah. But look, Will's here with us. Will's a Spurs fan. There's a lot of, obviously, you must have heard the news today. Maddison could be out for up to 3 months. Van der Ven is out. Do you think Big Ange is going to keep playing with this high line now that you have no pace at the back? And if so, do you agree that's the right thing for him to do?
Long-term wise, I don't know. In the short term against Wolves, I think that our midfield and front three is still fit enough to get a job done there. And we defend from the front, right? So the better job they do defending from the front, the less pressure that puts on the lack of quality that we have in the back line. So, yeah, Spurs fans were shocked too about what Ange did. Right, and Jamie Carragher said it was genius too. By the way,
do you think it was genius?
Carragher says a lot of things.
Yeah. Do you, Will? Do you think it was genius?
Would I have done it? No. Would I have thought to do it? No. Do I post hoc? Am I able to rationalize why I think he did it tactically? Yeah. I mean, there is a fine line between genius and insanity, right? So you got to pick one or the other. A or B, flip the coin.
What were the tactics, wasn't genius in any way. It's I've said it in our group chat. It's like it's the equivalent of Bielsa. When Leeds would lose games like 6-1, 7-1,
you would carry on,
playing open football. Everyone was like, "That's football, mate. That is elite football. You've got to give them credit. You're getting treated like a small club."
You know, Chelsea had a better chance if they just shut up.
If Arteta does that, if Pep does that, if Klopp does that, they're going to get roasted for it endlessly.
Will, the only thing I could put it down to, Will, is I genuinely think and just doesn't rate Chelsea. It was a lack of respect. He thought, you know what, they're going to get chances, but they're not going to finish. They're not going to finish. That's the only thing I can put it down to. I mean, that's the only thing.
So, like, some people that are neutrals have done some videos on this. I won't plug their channels on Terry's channel, but they basically said that there's 2 ways that you can utilize this when you come down to 9 men. You drop guys into the box and you get in narrow and tight, and you keep them from, you try to keep them from putting balls into the middle of the box. Or you pin them up against the halfway line and you shorten that space by bringing Vicario out. And that's why Vicario was, 20, 30 yards outside of his goal. And when they play those balls over the top, it's his job to clear them out and sweep them before they can get a runner onto them. And that worked multiple times. It took them. The one that we conceded in the 73rd minute actually wasn't off the halfway line. It was deeper in our half. The last 2 that we did concede from the halfway line came in the 93rd minute. So the tactics were working. That tactic of Vicario picking off the long balls played in behind was working up until the 93rd minute. I think we
with the
just got
Chelsea
tired
team
and
that
ran out of
struggled to
legs.
break down low blocks,
Yeah, I was going to say.
wouldn't it have been more logical to play a low block against them once you went down to 9 men?
The only thing I
at
will
that
say,
point,
though,
let's be honest,
defend
One at a time,
Pochettino
one at a time.
literally gave you guys the blueprint and said he struggles to break down low blocks midweek.
Yeah, I don't personally believe in the historical fallacy of what happened in the past will happen right now, right? The more chances you give Chelsea to put balls into the box, the higher the odds are that they're going to score. I mean, we saw Manchester United go into a low block in the Champions League and end up conceding 2 goals, right? So it happens. You know, Liverpool ended up, you know, after defending brilliantly, right, for the majority of the second half, ended up conceding an own goal there in the last minute. There's no guarantee that we would have won in a low block either. So playing the high line gives us a better chance to score than playing in a low block.
I do get that. The 2 things I'd say to it is this. Firstly, 3 things. Firstly, I actually enjoyed what he did. I thought he made the game amazing. I cheer every time Vicario got to the ball. I cheered. I'm not going to lie. As a neutral, I enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was brilliant to watch.
Comparing it to Man United, look, we're shit. You know what? We're not a benchmark for anyone right now. We are goddamn awful. And a well-organized Man United team wouldn't have lost that game being 2-0 up and going down to 10 men playing the way we did. We just switch off. We're awful with 11. We're awful with 10. We'd be awful with 9. For me, I get Vicario was getting to those balls, but I looked at it as Chelsea weren't being patient and they were overhitting those passes. If they were passing the ball around that halfway line a little bit, but when they scored their goal, it came through just patiently waiting for a hole to appear. If they've done that straight away and been more relaxed, they weren't such a young squad themselves, I think you guys would have got beat. Looking back at it now, once all the excitement went away, I think you would have been beaten by even by teams like Aston Villa. They would have beaten you 7-8, 9-0 playing that way. There's a reason that no one's ever done that in the history of elite level football.
I think with the Liverpool fan far left, I'm sorry, I don't know your name. Far left bottom row. Yeah. I think what he said was a little bit right there as well, right? Because we weren't playing a better quality team. Because when we dropped to 10 men versus Luton, we didn't do that, right? But we did do it against Chelsea. I think it had to do with who was still in the game. The fact that it was Dyer and Højbjerg playing center back. They're not going to be able to defend well in a low block either, right? So
yeah, I do hear that.
But them out of the game by playing that high line.
I think people are calling out Liverpool Spurs fans. It's always about consistency as ever, because in the sort of the post-match reactions, it was, well, the manager isn't ever going to yield on his principle. But if he did something different when going down to 10 men against Luton to what he did to Chelsea, then that means he is adapting his system and style depending upon who's he's playing. I think what kind of triggers a lot of rivals is the whole, yeah, but he just stuck to his exact principle. Unlike all your managers that have to change when they go down to 10 men, mine didn't. And for me, I think he did change. And I stand by that, because he ain't going to play that high line with 11 men versus Wolves. So
he doesn't play that high with 11 men ever, right? So
no, exactly. So he did adapt. He did change what he normally does. But it was crazy. But in terms of the injuries, and you guys now, I want to ask you about this. According to Paul O'Keefe, who's very knowledgeable around Spurs, he said that James Maddison has suffered from an ongoing, recurring issue with his ankle, and it's now been discovered that the ligaments are damaged. If he misses 3 months, how much of an impact is that going to have upon your Tottenham season, in your opinion?
I think he's been the best midfielder in the league so far this season, so it'll have a huge impact. I mean, you can't lose, one of the best players in the league so far this season and it not impact your squad. I don't necessarily. Postecoglou came out today in his press conference and said he'll be back in January. So, who do you believe, the manager or Paul O'Keefe? I don't know.
Hang on. It depends when in January, because January is 2 months away. But if it's the end of January, it's pretty much 3 months, isn't it?
Yeah, 2.5 months. Yeah.
Yeah. So Paul O'Keefe has said between 1 to 3 months. I said up to 3 months. So January is at least 2 months away. Who comes in now to replace him? Who's going to be that creative spark in the midfield, in your opinion?
I mean, it's got to be Celso for me, in my mind. He played really well in preseason, obviously in the past, but in the past, again, but in the past, Basuma didn't play well, and he's played well this season. And in the past, I think Celso's maybe the first. Ange also kind of hinted as Brian Hill playing in that role. I don't know about that, but because he said it's not only about Lo Celso, Brian Hill and some of the other players too. I don't know if he's necessarily specifically talking about the midfield position. But I mean, Lo Celso for Argentina can play, so we know there's a player in there somewhere. But he's not going to be James Maddison. Let's Let's be honest about it.
And a lot of the panel was saying before you got on that they feel that this is it, that there will be a big sort of collapse now from Spurs over the next 2 to 3 months. Do you feel that way as a Spurs fan?
I don't. I think there's going to be some games that we could have had a chance of winning that we may now not. For example, the Manchester City game, Newcastle away, even probably the Brighton one. The Wolves game, I'm not too worried about. Neto's out as well, and I think that what Postecoglou's system thrives on is scoring more goals than the opponent. And Postecoglou said so far this season he's been happy with the defensive side of the game, but he hasn't been very happy with the offensive side of the game, and they need to step it up. And now's the time for them to step it up. I don't think Wolves have the firepower to put 2 or 3 past us, even with our weakness in defense. And as long as we score more than them, we win. So I'm confident in winning at Wolves. Aston Villa at home.
They don't need to put 2 or 3 past you. They just need 1, and they need to be solid defensively.
But they haven't been solid defensively this year.
I know they haven't been solid defensively, but against Manchester City, they showed if they have something to play for, they can capitalize. Where Tottenham, now that you have 2 defenders, now that you have 3 defenders from your back line out, the chemistry might not be there, and we're gonna have to see how you guys hold up against the smaller teams, because they're gonna play a low block. You're gonna have to break them down, and on the counter, you're gonna have 2 center halves that are much slower and may not be capable to keep up with some of the pace that Wolves have.
Well, there's no guarantee Eric Dyer's even going to play. It could be Ben Davies and Ashley Phillips for all we know. And Ashley Phillips is a very good young talent. He's not proven in the Premier League yet, but he has had first team appearances in the Championship. He is young, fast, technical, can play out of the back. So I mean, it's a go, right? We've seen young 18, 19-year-old players coming in for Chelsea when they got their ban and light the world on fire, right? And do things that nobody thought they would do. So.
Will, I've got a quick question. Is Sarr injured or is he fit?
No. Sarr's fit.
Cool. Because I was just thinking as you're speaking, right? I'm trying to think of ways Spurs could combat this. If you was to play like Sarr and Basuma, I don't know, in a double pivot, and maybe Bentancur. I know Bentancur's just come back from injury, but I'll say after Maddison, he's your next player that can maybe unlock a defense or play that through ball. If you was to play him just in front with a Brennan Johnson and a Kulusevski and a Son up top, I do think the Spurs' problem in the next coming weeks after the international break won't be scoring goals. I think the volume of goals will decrease. I don't think you'll score as much as Madders in the team, but I still think you'll score goals. But I think it's what Tom alluded to earlier. I just think it will be your defense. But I think if you was to play that front 6, do you think that could work?
Yeah. I mean, for me, I would personally. Bentancur is really good, but he's still coming back. Yeah, he's still coming back from an ACL injury. He's only had I think it's like 35 minutes or so far coming back. I don't think he's necessarily up to match fitness to where he can necessarily start against Wolves. So I think you'll see somebody like Celso, who's been in training for a long period of time, make that jump. But if it was me, I'd almost actually, to be honest with you, put Celso as a right wing, have Kulusevski play in the 10, and play Basuma and Bentancur in that, with Johnson on the left and Son in the middle. Kulusevski is a little bit better in the midfield. He's played in the midfield a couple of times, came up and actually got the goal against Sheffield United that ended up causing us to win that from playing in that James Maddison role. That's what I would do, but I'm not Postecoglou, right? So
you know, you might be onto something there, because even Kulusevski, like, since he's had his reoccurring hamstring injuries, he doesn't like to go on the outside. He naturally drifts in the midfield anyway. So yeah, I see where you're coming from in that one.
I want to ask a question to Egal here. According to Paul O'Keefe, Maddison has been suffering with an ongoing, recurring issue on his ankle. Do you think that could be a potential reason why? There's been a lot of questions asked this year. Why haven't Arsenal's, why haven't Man Utd's, why haven't bigger clubs than Spurs, and I mean that with respect, gone in for him? Could it be that of this injury, there's always been question marks over his injury record, and now it turns out that he has a persistent ankle injury, which could make him miss 3 months of the season. Do you think that's a reason why some teams may have swerved Maddison in the past if he does have these injury problems?
I think people just went for a different profile of player. So, like, I know Chelsea went for a younger player. Arsenal, I don't think the injuries would have stopped us from signing Maddison. If we wanted Maddison, we've signed players that are injured before Terry. So I don't think that's the main reason. I just think people are looking at Maddison. He came off a season where Leicester got relegated, and I think Tottenham and Newcastle were the only 2 teams really in for him. So maybe Newcastle shifted their their focus elsewhere, and Tottenham capitalized. I don't think it had anything to do with the injury. But the injury right now, it's going to be a concern for Tottenham, because if he is one of their best players and he becomes and he has reoccurring injuries going forward, it could be a problem. But at this moment in time, it's too early to tell.
And I mean, he's missed he's only had one season where he's missed 12 games in a season. So before, any other season that he's played for Leicester, the most he ever missed was 6. So it hasn't really been as big as people are making it out to be. There's little niggles here and there. He hasn't missed a game for us yet this year. So
he's going to miss a game now. So that's the point. That's why we're talking about
injuries happen.
Yeah, of course. And we're going to have to see how you weather it, because as I said earlier, our squad depth might not be the best at Arsenal, but yours is paper thin. So we're going to this is where Ange Postecoglou is actually going to be tested. And I think to this point, you guys have been riding high with not too much controversy.
I don't think your squad's near as deep as you think it is, right? And then like
I didn't say my squad is deep. I actually said the
your
opposite.
guys is as paper thin as ours, I think.
Not that accurate, bro. You got who's going to be playing?
So you agree? So what's Egal? Hang on, stop Egal. So you agree with Egal then that Spurs' squad's way for thin?
Yeah, of course. We don't even have a full starting 11.
Okay.
We start our starting 11 is really only 9 to 10 players, right? We have to play what was it, Richarlison on the left, or something like that. So I mean, it's
but you think your squad's as strong as Arsenal's though overall, player for player? Is that what you're saying?
Player. Yeah, for sure.
This is laughable at this point.
Really?
So who in the Arsenal squad is the one that they don't really start with?
Well, I mean, like, who do they have in midfield for depth, right? Thomas Partey's out. Who they have to play? Havertz? Or do you have to play
Fabio
Vieira? I mean, Pep Matasar is better than Vieira.
Hey, we're coming down to subjective decisions at this point. Let's be honest, though. What's your expectations? Because our expectation is to challenge for the league and to compete on all competitions. What are yours? If your squad is as good as ours, you should be challenging.
Where are we in the league right now compared to yours?
It's still early. Are you going to keep this up?
We're 2 points ahead of you. So if our squad was as good as yours, we should be finishing in the same, close to where you guys are, and we are.
So you genuinely believe you're going to finish close to Arsenal this season? Because I think
we'll finish above you this season.
Oh, based on what? Based on how you performed in a couple games?
Yes, based on how we performed in a couple of games.
Okay. So in case you've never been here before, 10 games doesn't determine.
I get that.
Sorry,
let me just jump in for a second here. So, Will, from your point of view, what makes you believe in Tottenham, and why do you think they'll be sustainable this year? Finishing, I think you'll make top 4. I agree with that. But what makes you think you'll finish above Arsenal and maintain the levels you're at now?
So from a chance creations perspective, we're creating some of the most chances in the league, most shots on target. We have Son Heung-min finishing up top. He only needs 1 to 2 chances a game to get 2 goals. On the flip side of that, Arsenal, their chance creation is 13th, 14th, 15th in the league. They can't do anything with that. Their strikers can't finish. They're performing below even their XG. So why wouldn't we be winning more games if we're creating more chances and scoring more goals and scoring more frequently?
The one question I would have for you on that is that James Maddison is the second highest chance creator in the league. Mm-hmm. If he misses 2 months, 3 months, how do you truly believe the Celsos of this world, etc., can create at the level of James Maddison, which is up there with the Bruno Fernandez's, the KDB numbers, the Trent Alexander-Arnold numbers? Do you think that somebody else in your squad can match those numbers and break the lines like James Maddison to maintain that?
Yeah, so somebody's going to have to step up. How that affects the chance creation, we'll have to see. Can Celso do it? Yes, I've seen him do it for Argentina. Has he done it for Spurs? No, he hasn't. He did it somewhat in Spain. Was key in the Villarreal round in the Europa League and stuff like that. So it's a possibility. Is it a high likelihood that Lo Celso can fill that gap? No. I've seen Bentancur do it. Right, Bentancur was in the first half of last season when we were actually getting results. Was the main creator in that midfield. Right, had the most chances created. Was one probably. I had him as player of the season, even over Harry Kane at the beginning of last season until he got injured just after the World Cup. But it just depends on who steps up in that. We'll have to wait and see. Is Maddison, Son in the first 3 games playing from the left actually was creating more chances than Maddison was in those first 3 games? since Son's moved to the middle, obviously his chance creation is dropped because that's not his role anymore. So there are other players that can do it. It's just a matter of time to see. If that doesn't happen and our chance creation drops to say like the levels of Arsenal's, right? Then it's a different argument, right? But I can't say that will happen.
I mean, when you see chance creation of Arsenal, both Arsenal and Spurs averaged 23 attempts on goal per game. You both create similar numbers of outputs. I want to ask Liverpool. I want to ask Lewis. Do you see there being a drop off with Maddison, or do you think a Celso or Bentancur can step up and create 2.5 to 3 chances per game like Maddison's been doing?
Nah, I disagree with Will, man. I think not for me at all. I think this is the end of any sort of title hopes any Tottenham fans have. And for me, being genuinely serious, I think this is now damage limitation. I think Tottenham's season, their expectation should be the top 4. I think that is a reasonable expectation. And this next 2 to 3 months could determine whether or not they're going to get the top 4. You know what I mean? I don't see any world in which they can challenge for the league now with the injuries they've got, including
I said third. I didn't say challenge.
I didn't say you did. I'm just saying some Tottenham.
No,
fans.
but to say you're going to finish above Arsenal means you're going to challenge, because we're going to challenge for the league this season.
No, I
and
don't
also,
think you are.
Another thing you seem to have forgotten to mention is the defense. The defensive side of our game has been our main thing that we've been going based off this season, which kept us in all these games, which kept us competing for this league right now, which is keeping us at this top of the table, where I don't know how you're going to manage, not only with your midfield issues now that Maddison's injured, but with your defense, with the red cards and the injuries. You're just to weather the storm for the next couple of games might be difficult for you, let alone keep this up for the rest of the season. So I find it laughable that you think a manager in his first season with a new team is going to be able to compete for this league title or even be close to Arsenal or Man City at the end of the season.
Well, I mean, Romero's not out for months. He'll be back in 3 games, right?
Ooh. Romero, yeah, I know.
Yeah, and Adoji's
what are those
not
3
out
games?
for months. He'll be back.
No. Name those
month.
3 games, please.
Wolves, Villa, City. I already did.
Yeah, you're going to lose 3 of those.
No, we won't.
Yeah, you will.
I was going to say,
no, we won't.
You're already like your defense is already quite middling in the league, and that's with your best players. So
our defense isn't middling in the league.
It is middling in the league.
No, we actually have conceded less open play goals than Arsenal have.
You've conceded 13 goals.
That's not the metric I'm going to use, because for all I'm saying.
Then what is the defense? What defense?
For me,
how's our defense middling?
Your expected goals against is middle of the pack. Like you're level with Nottingham Forest. So
your goalkeeper takes some of the most shots in the league.
Gal, I mean, look, again, open play I get, but non-open play goals count, don't they? At the end of the day,
yeah, they count.
Man United are shocking this year, and we've only conceded 3 more goals than you. So I don't think and I know 4 came in 1 game, but we've had a few games where we've been slapped up as well. Like I agree, like you score goals, but a lot of that was from the creation of Maddison. You've been conceding. You've now got your best defenders now out. My concern for Tottenham would be if your manager maintains, I'm not saying the high line he did when you went down to 10 and 9 men. Van de Ven, and I've praised him in nearly every show I've spoken about Spurs this year, reminds me of Rio Ferdinand, reminds me of Van Dijk in terms of the recovery pace. Losing, but the amount of times I've seen teams get in behind, but he has caught them up.
Yeah.
To play the same way, and you don't have a player that can catch them up with pace. Romero can't do that. He doesn't even play on that side. You're going to concede more goals, in my opinion. And that's not me being disrespectful to you or being disrespectful towards Tottenham. It's just looking at what I've seen when your team's been at its best and thinking, well, you remove those quality players. That I was just looking at the numbers here. Bentancur, he averages 0.7 chances created per game. The highest the Celso has ever had anywhere in his career is 1.5 per game. Maddison's averaging nearly 3. You've got no one in your squad to replace that chance creation over a 2 to 3 month period. In a couple of games, sample size, of course, it's doable. And defensively, you were going to miss Van de Ven so much. There's a reason why your fans turned on Erik Dyer. There's a reason why the man didn't even want your social media people filming him because they didn't think they'd use it because he knows how much. And the reason he's so disliked is because how bad he is. It's going to cause problems. Now, I still think you can make the top 4. I do. But I'll be honest with you, and I know you think it's because I'm not a real Man United fan, but I don't see how you can be confident of finishing front of Arsenal because most Liverpool fans are not even confident they're finishing front of Arsenal.
Even Liverpool, Terry. I mean, I don't know where this confidence is coming from. How can you sit there and say you're going to finish above Arsenal? I don't think you finish above Liverpool, bro, to be honest.
But we're not finishing
Where do
above
you think you're
Liverpool.
gonna finish,
You didn't
Will?
ask me who finishes.
That's
in
what I was
second
going to
and
ask,
first.
Will. After you said you'll finish for Arsenal, I was literally going to ask you. So who's your 1 to 4?
Yeah, so City,
Yeah.
Liverpool, Tottenham, Arsenal,
Fair.
and then Newcastle, Villa, whoever fits in that fifth spot.
Yeah, I don't know,
Where's
man.
Where's
I
my
just
Chelsea, I'm
don't
sorry, it's
see it.
not. It's not.
Where's
happening.
my club?
You know what he's
Yeah,
Sorry,
David,
guys.
we're dusted, bruv. We are dusted. Man United and Chelsea ain't being mentioned, my bro. Listen, I like the confidence at the end of that. I'm just trying to understand. I know that 2023 questions are upon the edge of being banned from society. Questions are bad. I just like to understand people's logic and where people are coming from and why they think it.
Questions.
Go on.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, go
I
on.
was going to
Go-
say quickly with Spurs, Will. I think you have similar problems to my club. Yeah, I never considered you as title challengers at all because there's no evidence just yet. But I said if Spurs were to, if I was to start considering them, their 1 to 11 would have had to stay fit until January. Then you would have had to reinvest, similar to what we kind of have to do. And the fact that what there never will kind of happen, you would pick up key injuries to key players. I just think that I still think you'll get top 4. I'm not with this notion that our Spurs top 4 hopes might be in danger now. I still think you'll get top 4. But the title challenge, for that to be realistic, you would have had to keep your best players fit to at least January.
I don't think the title challenge was very realistic either. Like I'm not Harry. I think
Yeah.
he's a nice guy. He's a very good dude.
Look, I want to move on. I want to move on and talk a little bit about Arsenal, but I'm going to ask us. I want us to do something. I want us to be grown up about this, and I'm kind of
Sure.
talking to you a little bit, Egal, here, and this is not a dig. When people criticize your club, I don't want you to say, yeah, but your club. I want us to stay. I watched a lot of political debates recently, and that's all politicians do. When they get challenged about something they've done, they deflect it onto something somebody else has done. I want to try and keep it on. Do you get where I'm coming from, right? Because I want to do that. Will, you're saying that you don't think Arsenal will challenge for the title. We'll get onto the Burnley game a little bit later. What is it why don't you think they can do it? What is it about this Arsenal team that you think is worse than last year?
So last year that they had Granit Xhaka in the midfield, and he was, I think, the linchpin in what provided security for not only the defense but also initiated the transition, right? So for me, transitions in football are very important, right? How quickly you transition from one mode of play to the other depends on how successful you are. And Granit Xhaka had the season of his career for Arsenal last season. Was like something like 14 goal contributions. It's 7 goals, 7 assists, something like that. And he really allowed and freed up Odegaard to do what Odegaard is good at. Which isn't a lot, but he is good at some things. And Xhaka freed him up to do those things. He also was instrumental in Martinelli not having to be as defensive and could free him up as well on that left-hand side. Thomas Partey was fit for a lot most of the season than he has been this season. And those two aspects of that game. Declan Rice, while he's a good player, he's not capable of doing what Granit Xhaka did last season. They haven't replaced that 8 correctly. And then going forward, Gabriel Jesus and Kedia, I don't consider them strikers. I think of them as, midfielders who want to be strikers. And then on the wing side, Saka and Martinelli just aren't performing. So can Martinelli and Saka, I think Saka's a great player, best player for Arsenal that they have. I take him at Tottenham in a heartbeat. I think Martinelli overperformed what his mean is. And unless he gets that type of luxury to be free like he was last season, he won't put up the numbers that he did last year without those goal scoring opportunities. Luckily, they have a great center back pairing in Saliba and Gabriel, but they're fullbacks and Ben White. Ben White's great in defense, but he's not great in chance creation or pushing forward or doing overlaps or underlaps. So I don't see them putting as many goals in the back of the net as they did last season. And when they face top 6 sides or even teams like Aston Villa, Brighton, etc., they're going to get outscored, and that's going to cause them to drop more points than they did last season.
I understand that they haven't been quite as good this year so far. Do you not think they can improve? Do you not think they can? Because we saw, for instance, against Sevilla the other night, I don't know how many of you watched it, but we saw Arsenal get back to looking like their best, getting in behind, breaking. Do you not think that Martinelli and Saka can get back to last year? Because they're tracking towards creating about the same amount of chances as last year. They're tracking towards scoring the same amount of goals as last year. I agree with you. The football doesn't look as scintillating. It doesn't look as quick. But do you not think it can get better throughout the course of the season? Or do you think what we're seeing now from Arsenal, that's it? This is where Arsenal will remain?
I mean, it can always get better, right? Every team can improve in the future because we don't know what the future is, right? What I'm looking at is I'm not even looking at
but you are, because you're predicting that they're not going to get any better from this.
Yeah, and the reason why I'm predicting that is because right now I'm not seeing evidence that I think their midfield is performing at its capacity. I don't think there's an extra gear in that midfield. I think there's an extra gear in Saka. I think there's an extra gear possibly in Martinelli if he has that tool that releases him, it frees him up to be creative and to move and to be free and not have to be tracking back and helping out on that left-hand side in the midfield. I think the midfield right now is playing at its capacity. I don't see the midfield getting any better than it is. Therefore, I'm not seeing signs that anything is going to improve because the midfield is the foundation by which the front three can operate, right? And for any team, for any club. So with the midfield playing at its capacity, I don't see that the attacking front line is going to get any better. And why I say that is because I'm not talking about total numbers of shots, right? Martin Odegaard taking 5 shots from 30 yards out over the bar is not a quality chance, right? It adds to the totals of their shots per game, but it's not a dangerous chance. You're not testing goalkeepers kicking it over the bar from 30 yards, right? So I'm looking at their chances created, their XAG compared with their MPXG, right? So you take those two statistics and you look at that.
Slow you down. Sorry, don't be rude. MPXG, explain that to us.
Yeah, non-penalty expected goals. So those are that's the XG that comes from their open play performances. It removes the penalty aspect of it because a penalty.
Why would you do that?
Because the penalty adds 0.75 to the XG,
yeah,
and that's not about chance creation, right?
Well,
like from open play.
Yeah, but generally you get penalties through breaking lines and make the teams.
Sometimes or you get handballs in the box, right?
But most, if you look at the teams that get the majority of the penalties, it's the teams that are typically the best attacking sides.
And most penalties come from set pieces too.
Right. So, but again, the most attacking teams get the most set pieces. So that's why I'm not popular. I don't know if you're American or Canadian. There's one thing I've always challenged. I know in a lot of your sports, the stats are important, and I use stats. But I will say this: removing penalties and how penalties are won from football you can't remove a metric like that, because when you attack well, you win. Our City will get more penalties than Luton this year, without a shadow of doubt, because they're in the box more. So to remove them and say we've got to remove that from your
right, but when you're doing it, I understand what you're saying. But penalties are a part of the game and they happen. But right now, the rate at which Arsenal's getting penalties is not a normal rate, right? They have 6 penalties in 11 games, right? That's one every other game. Do you think that Arsenal's going to get 20-something penalties this season?
Yeah,
no.
I get where you're coming from. I understand.
So what I'm saying is when you're creating that, when you're doing statistical analysis, you have to remove the highs and the lows, right? If you want to get to the mean, if you want to see the actual trend, right? So the only reason why I remove the XG from the penalty aspect is because I'm looking about open play creation, how they're breaking teams down and how their expected assists, right, to goals compares to their non-penalty XG creation, the quality of the chance. Because all XG is how easy or difficult the shot was, right? Or what the likelihood of scoring should be, right? So if it's a penalty is 0.75 XG because it's a 75% chance of scoring, right? That's why you get that XG. It's not because that chance was worth that. It's because that particular shot, the penalty shot, should be scored 75% of the time, statistically.
And I understand that the problem is with XG, again, though, it doesn't factor in who's shooting, does it?
Exactly. It doesn't.
So, yeah. So again,
the quality of the chances they're creating.
You know, and I understand that, but then you have to look at the quality of the player that's taken. If Saka's in a position to have a shot on goal that 75% of the time you score, he's still got a better chance of scoring it than Antony from Manchester United. So the quality of the Arsenal players needs to be factored in as well. And I understand where you're coming from.
You can get that data from how much a player exceeds their XG. For example, Heung-min Son.
I want to ask you a question. So is that how you assess football? Because it sounds to me like you, and I mean this word in not in a horrible way, from your stat merchant point of view. Like, is it just you look at the underlying metrics and that is what you go with?
So no, when I'm watching the game, I don't sit there with my stat sheets and my abacus like, okay, what do we got here? We're going on, okay, right. I don't do that, right? I watch the game with my eyes, right? But when you're predicting, right? So I am an analyst by trade. That's what I do. So when you're projecting future expectations, whether it be sales or anything else, right? You have to look at the data. The data in context, it helps you to make hypotheses about the future that are reliable, right? A model, a metric by which you can measure things. So if you're not using data to project it, what are you doing? I feel it. I feel it in my bones, Terry. Arsenal ain't gonna get third place.
Sorry, Gal, 1 second. I'll come to you in a minute. I'm just enjoying this conversation. So I understand where you're coming from, and I don't think it's about just feeling it in your bones, because that's what Harry said about winning the league. We're going to win the league, so I'm going to will it to happen. We all know that when you have no physical control over impacting something, willing it isn't going to work. I totally understand that, and I do think stats play a part because I use statistics. The only issue I have with what you're personally saying is you've just seen two players come out of your team who you've heavily relied upon to keeping certain stats and underlying metrics in your favor, i.e. Maddison's chance creation. There is no data, there is no analyzing you could do that would see Bentancur or Celso in the Premier League create anywhere near as many chances as Maddison, not just has done for you, but has done previously in his career. Equally, you don't have a defender that can cover the ground in the same way that Mickey van der Ven does. And we've seen what happens when Romero plays with Dyer. The only reason I disagree with you isn't with your synopsis around Arsenal. Where I disagree with you is you haven't used that same logic for why Spurs are not going to massively drop off and maintain third position because you're taking away that underlying metric that's made you brilliant this year, and you're just saying somebody else will step up. So by that logic, why would you not apply to Arsenal and just say, well, somebody else at some point will click in and replace Xhaka, and therefore they'll be as good as last year? What stops you from doing that, my friend?
That's a great point. And the thing that stops me from doing that. So if you talk about logic a lot, and that's one of the things that I like about you is that you try to be logical in your positions. The problem with that is that you have to be, therefore, because there is no evidence either way, right? We don't know how these players are going to work with this manager and how this system is going to be tweaked and or twerked, because Postecoglou said while he doesn't change his mentality and or his principles, he changes the system by changing players in specific places, right? So if he wants to get a certain result from a certain way, he'll take a player who's good at this out and put a different chess piece in that's good at that. So now that he has different chess pieces, how will they operate within that Postecoglou system? We don't have any data on at all. So I can't say we will, and I can't say we won't.
I totally agree. So you have absolutely no idea how you're going to be, but yet you remain confident, and you're basing that confidence on what you've seen so far from him and the history of him. So I don't think it's unfair, and I know this is why I get called an Arsenal defender. It's not about defending Arsenal. I've said it in every video I've ever done about them. It's about looking for consistency in people's analysis, and there are certain unknowns we don't know. We don't know yet how El Neni and Declan Rice look in the middle together. As an example, they've never played together before. They could come together and as a pairing look absolutely amazing. I personally doubt it, because we've seen those two play before. So I don't personally believe that Eric Dyer coupled with Romero for Postecoglou, they're going to suddenly look amazing when they haven't done before. But they might do. So that's the only reason.
I don't think Eric Dyer will stay there.
So look,
I think Ashley Phillips stays.
From my point of view, look, I understand where you're coming from. I want to go to Egal now, and then we're going to get onto the game. Do you agree? Like, what's your response? We don't have to go into the statistical side of it, but in terms of Spurs finishing in front of you and your team just not being good enough, and you're not going to basically improve from here, what do you say to that as an Arsenal fan?
He's basically basing all his evidence on an attack that has been disjointed due to two reasons. One, Gabriel Jesus has been injured for the majority of this time, and we've been chopping and changing with that. In addition to that, he's talking about a midfield that we've been chopping and changing. Why is that all of a sudden Arsenals can't click into gear when we see other teams as the season progresses? They start to get familiarity. They play with each other more often, and you see more consistency from the performances as the season goes on. But your whole base analysis on why Arsenal is going to be poor is based on our performances to start the season, and not factoring in that we've just had our toughest fixture schedule at this moment in time, where we face Man City, we face Chelsea, we face yourselves, and we just come off a game versus Manchester United. So to analyze the first 11 games and not analyzing who we actually played in comparison to who you've played, which is some of the bottom teams. You've beaten some of the bottom teams. Let's be honest. We haven't played some of the teams at the bottom of the table. Besides who? Bournemouth. Who else have we played? Sheffield United.
We've had the same difficulty of schedule.
We haven't played Burnley. We haven't played Luton Town. So my point is, our fixture schedule can make it seem like, Arsenal is struggling a lot more. But really and truly, some of these tougher games are happening at this moment in time. And it also is a factor in why we've been performing the way we've been performing. But yeah, I think overall, we have not been attacking as well. And we've not had the same level of consistency to start the season for one of two reasons. One, we have to find a way to manage as we're getting a new midfield. Xhaka's gone. I agree with you there. Xhaka, we are missing Xhaka at certain times, but where we have been better is our control of the games. I don't feel like a majority of these games that we are winning, I don't feel like the other team has as many shots on our goal. I don't feel like the other team has as many opportunities on us. I don't feel like when we look at the stats and the actual underlying numbers, we don't face as many shots as some of the other teams in the league. We're one of the best defenses, and we hold on. Even though our midfield has not clicked into gear, our midfield hasn't been our biggest issue. Our biggest issue has been the chance creation and the finishing in our final third, and that can change. That can change strictly based off of two things: one, fitness and availability, and two, our players clicking into gear and having more time to play with each other. And as we see with Manchester City, teams can grow as the season goes on, but apparently when it's Arsenal, they can never improve throughout the season.
Yeah, no, anybody can improve throughout the season. I've never said that, right? What I'm saying, I'm talking about probabilities, right? So likelihoods. What is the likelihood? What is the Bayesian analysis of that, right?
What's the likelihood of a team who has their first starting striker, their starting midfielder back fit in the team, and when you don't have one,
Gabriel Jesus has played,
you had multiple players out throughout the season. That's one. Number two, what's the chances of somebody improving when they have more familiarity with that player? We have two new players, and we have at least two new players in that starting midfield, and that's going to make a difference every game.
Well, if you're counting Havertz as a new starting player, that's fine. And is Havertz forever bad? No. But what I can do is I have seen Havertz play in the Premier League for multiple seasons. There's a statistical track, historical track of him playing. Yes. Right.
Same with Dyer at the back.
Same with Dyer at the back, which is why I don't think Postecoglou will play Dyer at the back. I think he'll end up
Celso in attack. No, look, boys, I don't want to shut this down because
Celso under this manager we don't have.
Will, do you know what it is? I don't disagree with your opinion. I just disagree. I just do believe that you're not applying the same logic to your own club as you are doing Arsenal. And by the way, I get that because you're meant to hate them, but you're doing it with facts. That it becomes harder when you do it with feeling. It makes sense. I want to go to some super chats here.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, this here says Terry, stop defending Arsenal and let Ange cook. It's not about Arsenal. It's about logic. This ain't true. Will did a 6-hour stream trying to justify Romero being a better centre back than Saliba. That can't be true.
Well, it was a call-in show, and each fan was allowed to come on and talk, so that's why it lasted 6 hours. Yeah,
you don't believe that?
100% Romero's a better defender than Saliba. 100%, no doubt.
Let him believe what he wants to believe.
Lewis, I want to go to a neutral on this. I need to go to a neutral. Lewis, do you believe that Romero is better than Saliba?
No.
Okay. Anyone agree with Will on that?
No, but can I just say,
he probably thinks Van de Ven is better than Saliba too.
No.
Do you know
Van de Ven is not better than Saliba.
I don't agree with Will, but can I just say this is why we love the beautiful game, because everyone just got their own.
I agree. I love it.
Will, where do you rank Romero in terms of centre backs then? If he's above Saliba, where's Romero in terms of all the centre backs in the league?
Like overall, maybe 86th, 87th percentile. It's not that high.
That's such a
Saliba's extremely overrated.
Don't talk percentiles. Who do you put him above and who isn't better than him? Let's talk in football language, please.
Well, I mean, Diaz is better than him. Stones is better than him. Van Dijk's better than him.
Who's he better than? I'd love to know who you think he's better than. Is he better than Varane?
Yeah, right now he's better than Varane.
He's better than Thiago Silva.
Yeah.
So I understand how
Team Anderson's been better than Romero.
Sorry, what God? I want to understand how good you think he is. Rio Ferdinand at his peak, is he better than him?
No.
Okay. Ledley King at his peak?
No.
Who could I think of?
Ricardo Carvalho at his peak.
Carvalho at his peak?
No.
Oh, so you don't put him in like a world-class category then? No. Fair enough. I'm just trying to understand where you kind of rate him.
You know what,
close to world-class.
Do you know what, Will? I know there's a smaller sample size, but I don't even believe he's the best centre-back in your own team. I actually think Van de Ven's better than him. I genuinely believe Van de Ven's better.
Romero's really good. Romero's problem isn't his ability. Romero's problem is his brain when he does stupid stuff, because he's the kind of person that is going to cost you 5 to 6 games a year through red cards and stupidity. And when you're
2 red cards in the league in his whole time at Tottenham.
Okay, but I think he's got away with some. Like the way I see him play, that guy should get in a lot more trouble. He is going to cost you games because of suspensions. He's going to cost you games because he gets. But it's not even about being sent off. It's about being booked early for something stupid, and then it takes away from your defending later on in the game. That's the element of his. he would have been a world-class defender if he was born in the 80s and 90s and playing then, because you got away with more. He has to just, that's the bit about him that annoys me. He plays really well and then just like stupid and rash, and then he takes himself out of the game.
I'm from that area. Believe it or not, I'm old.
Closer
Right.
to
So
Gabriel than he
hold on.
is.
Yeah. So believe it or not, I'm old. Right. So I like some of my favorite defenders throughout the history of the game are Pepe, Cellini, Ramos. Right. That's the kind of player that I like.
Right.
I don't like boring defenders that just sit there and then make a 5-yard pass here and there. Right. I like guys that have come in, bone crushing tackles, right? Energy, take the ball off a man, make a 30, 40-yard run.
Okay, so we're talking preference here. Like,
yeah,
okay,
that's what better means, right?
Yeah. Well, no. Preference is not better. It's
statistically, Romero's better than Saliba too. So
statistically, in what regard?
In all regards.
No, but give me a specific example.
Aerial dual percentage.
Statistically, Mustafa was
interceptions, tackles, ground duels.
When you say better in terms of interceptions, what do you mean? Wins more?
Yeah, wins more, a higher percentage of interceptions.
Is that possession?
Yeah, but it isn't defending ones based on how much a team defends.
Not
so,
a percentage, right?
There was that photo that went. But again, though, like a team that faces less, there's a chance they have a less of a percentage.
Right. So in totals, you're correct, right? So for example, Saliba this season, Saliba's challenged for 4 tackles this season, and he's won 4 tackles, right? So that's 100%, right? That's his ratio. Romero's done 13 and he's won 8, right? So he has a lower percentage, but a higher total, right? So 8 to 4 is higher. So you could say Saliba, I'm talking about percentages. So Saliba, when it comes to tackling a dribbler, would be better than Romero because he wins 100% of the time.
Yeah.
Romero only wins 75.
I understand that. That makes
Romero
a lot of sense.
wins 85% of his aerial duels.
Yeah.
Saliba only wins 50.
Okay, so again, and that I understand that, but then you have to watch the game to understand it more. I think one thing you don't factor in with stats when it comes to defenders is concentration. So the less you attack, the harder it is sometimes, because you might not have to do anything for 15 minutes, and then you got to switch on as an example. And it's why the City defenders are so good, because they're switched on for sometimes they barely do anything for 70 minutes and they have to defend. That's the best of the best. The goalkeeper's the same. If you barely have to make saves and suddenly you're called into action, that concentration, that being able to switch in, and there's not a stat for that per se. But so let's get back to some more of these super chats here. This here says, do you think you would have been where you had been, had the same amount of injuries to key players like us this season? Timber, Partey, Jesus long-term, Saka, Martinelli, and Odegaard short-term. Just in the interest of time, I will say this, that getting a team getting multiple injuries, it looks like they're going to keep getting injured, should factor into your predictions about them. So if you're a person that's predicting what's happening to Arsenal and you think the same players are going to keep getting injured all season, then your predictions should factor that in. Predictions should always factor in you're going to get injuries, because injuries happen in football. Thank you, George. Don't do drugs, kids. This guy thinks Romero is better than Saliba. That's from Luke Skywalker. Andrew also says Spurs fans are clowns. Romero better than Saliba. Behave yourself.
I always do.
Divine here says Saliba has not been booked in his last 41 games for club or country. Romero will probably only be better in American football. Stop capping, Will.
So Romero wasn't a good defender, or Ramos wasn't a good defender because he has the most yellow cards of all time. Got it. Thanks.
No, you can't. It's not the same equivalence, mate.
Why?
There's so much more context with Ramos.
Why?
He's actually won something. Like with his club.
So is Romero. He won the World Cup.
Not with his club. Not with his club.
He hasn't played for a club that wins things yet, has he?
So how can he be on the same level as Maddison?
You're dissing your own club. That's funny.
He hasn't played for a club that won things yet. He hasn't. Atalanta.
Let's do some more super chats here. This says, new fan of the channel. Come on, you gooners. Really enjoyed hearing all the different takes from other fans. Well, that is what we are here for. Just wait until I manipulate the stats. Stop it, is what Jin says. He's not manipulating stats. He's giving his interpretation of them. I love this Spurs guy, Will. Stats stroke axe. What's that meant to mean? No nonsense. I don't know what plus axe means. But yeah,
I think he left out an F.
Oh, facts, right? Yeah, that makes more sense. It's hard for a dyslexic. It makes no sense. Terry, Will, and a Sam on a stream. Straight facts.
Let's do it.
That'd be hilarious. Romero has to do more, so of course it's higher. Like what?
Totals, yes. Percentage, no. The volume actually hurts the person, the percentage of the person who has more volume. It's easier to win
But then
100% of less.
I could argue it both ways though, because if let's say Saliba had the chance to contest as many aerial duels, isn't it the chance his percentage could go higher? Because he might have just had. This is the one part I don't like about stats. It doesn't take into context opponents faced. So Saliba could have went up against some of the better strikers in the air for his
They play in the
games,
same
and Romero
league.
could have went up against the weakers. But so they're in the same league, but they play different opponents. Not
I'm
everyone
talking
plays
over
the
the last
same way.
365 days, not this season.
Okay, but in the last 365 days, you play different people, you play different opposition, you have different matchups. No two games are the same.
I remember calling out. There was a stat an Arsenal fan put together a few
38
years
teams
ago.
in the league. We all play each other.
Yeah, but
19 teams.
okay, but for instance, so do you think playing City without Rodri is the same as playing City with Rodri?
No.
So the point would be, you might have a midfielder that goes up against City twice in the space of a season, where Rodri's missing for a suspension or an injury, and he has better stats in that game. That's going to help him.
Sure.
Yeah, sometimes you get again. I don't think the stats are wrong, and people call me a stat merchant, but you can't just look at the statistics. You have to look at the game.
Yeah.
And also you have to look in games. Sometimes I've seen tackles, and I've gone, "That's a good tackle," and then I look at SofaScore afterwards, and it says a player did no tackles in a game. I've seen people win headers, and then I've seen like 3 or 4 of them, and then I've seen their stats show they've lost 2, and I'm thinking, when the fuck did they lose those headers? Like, sometimes the stats don't even add up. I'm not even going to lie to you. Sometimes I see things, and I'm like, that doesn't even make sense. But
Yeah,
I just want to know, what aspect of the game is he better than a Saliba? If you just break it down, forget about stats, just talk about the actual game itself. What aspect of the game is he better at? I think Saliba is better at passing than him. I think Saliba is better at, he's more calm in the defensive third when under pressure. He's more press resistant in that final third. He's a better overall player in the air. Physicality, maybe. That's the only thing I'll give Romero. But I think Saliba can get there. Overall, I think everything else is in Saliba's boat besides the physicality part.
Yes, I would disagree with you on almost everything that you just said there. And actually, I would go the opposite. So everything you said Romero's good at, I would actually say that Saliba's good at. And everything you said Saliba's good at, I would say Romero's good at, right? So, for example, you don't ever see Saliba making 40 and 50-yard runs, cutting past players, dribbling past players like Romero did this season. Saliba doesn't do that. Saliba doesn't make long passes, right? He doesn't do it. Right, his passes are all short passes within the back line. Gabriel, in fact, is your player who actually pushes and breaking lines, is press resistant, not Saliba. Saliba actually has more errors leading to goals, leading to shots, and leading to goals than Romero does. Right, he causes almost as many penalties as Romero does. Right, so your guys' impression of him is based on I don't know. Can't even get to start in his French national team. Right, so I don't understand.
Will, I will say that's based on opinion. You've seen great players for national sides not be picked due to preference. That's
but we're talking about opinion, right? We're talking about opinion.
No, but I mean, when you bring in international teams into it, you can't really say that. Look, Benzema was left out.
The opinion of the coach is that he's not good enough to play for them. That's the opinion of the coach. Otherwise, he would play.
No, but you can't use that. You can use that if you're comparing him to a French defender, but because
to compare that to Romero is unfair.
Because you don't know whether or not Romero will be picked by the manager or not, because he ain't French. So that as a reason for him to be better cannot be used. It can't be used. It's like saying, well, the striker, the main midfielder for San Marino is got to be better than Jude Bellingham because the San Marino coach don't pick Jude Bellingham.
Right, but San Marino isn't a top level. Argentina is the top level performing.
It doesn't matter, does it? You don't know. Do you know who the French coach would pick if Romero was French?
No, I don't, because he's not French, right?
So that element of your analysis cannot go into your comparisons between the two.
So you're saying Argentina is not as good of a footballing country as France?
Argentina doesn't have as many good.
I'm not saying they're not as good at footballing. I would say, generally speaking, I don't think that. I know they won the World Cup; they did impeccably well. French and Argentinian football is amazing. But that isn't the question. You haven't said the debate isn't which country has the best depth.
You're saying it's not analogous. What you're saying is it's not analogous because, right? You don't know if Romero would be able to get in over the current starting defenders for France, right?
One of your areas that the reason you put Romero above Saliba.
That's not my area. That's a area.
No, it's an area you use. So it's your area. You're making the analysis. You have brought it up. You have said one of the reasons I think Romero is better is because he starts for his country and Saliba doesn't. But you're not factoring in why Saliba doesn't. And the second point is, would Romero even start for France? Would he get in the squad if he was French? The answer is we don't know. And because we don't know, it can't be used as a reason to debate, in my opinion. I want to crack on with these super chats. We are running out of time today. Statman is cooking Egal, whether you believe it or not. Just stop just saying BS. Look at the stats. I'm a gooner, but the stats guy is also looking at half stats, is what Luke says. Playing style as a confounding factor of stats. This is true. If you're told not to make long balls, your long ball, it might not be as good. I don't know what I was meant to say. Something this year. Saliba has a better long percentage and more long passes made this year. Even if Romero has better stats than Saliba, they are close enough where eye test should mean something. Will said he'd pick Romero over Van Dijk. You'd pick Romero over Van Dijk. You said that.
So yesterday I was asked by Sava that if I could only choose one, who would you pick? And I said Romero. So I'm playing in a back line of one defender. And the reason why is because Romero going forward in transition and breaking lines and breaking the press is better than Van Dijk. Van Dijk is a better defender than Romero. But as far as an all-around footballer, on the ball, dribbling, breaking lines, transition, right? I would sacrifice the bits of the defensive attributes which Romero suffers compared to Van Dijk for the going forward aspects the benefits. Yeah.
Cool. We'll come back to more of these super chats in a minute, just because of interest of time for myself today. Big game this weekend, David. You're hosting Man City. How do you see it going, bruv?
Cole Palmer revenge game. Yeah, let's go. Let's go. No, we're gonna get smashed. I can't lie. City are a really good side. They're probably the best side in the league, and we're not. So they're probably gonna beat us by like 2 goals, I'd say. But I'm very happy. I'm very happy they gave us Cole Palmer because he's probably been our best player. I can't lie.
We didn't give you him, bro. You paid 45 million.
Hey, in the same way you gave us Cole Palmer, I gave Arsenal Kai Havertz and I gave Man United Mason Mount. So they're all presents. The successfulness of what you get given that's dependent on the player. I'm happy with Cole Palmer. So yeah, they're probably going to beat us. But I would say we play a lot better against the bigger sides than we do the smaller sides, just because of the nature of the way our squad's built.
Are you saying City are a big club there, bro?
How can I not? Of course they are. Hey, in my eyes, we're oil cousins. So realistically, we can't chat too much anymore. Yeah. If Chelsea could win the league, I don't mind if City win the league because you won a treble and I heard nothing. I didn't hear a thing from anyone. So it's not the end of the world.
I just want to say it's crazy. Chelsea have gotten an academy player from Manchester City, and he's coming in and he's playing like their best player at this moment in time. That just goes to show you the levels that Manchester City are. They have academy players like Cole Palmer who can go to another team, another top 6 team, and just be their best player. Gabriel Jesus and Zinchenko came to our team, that they were basically rotation pieces for them and are one of the best players. It just shows you how much quality is at Manchester City, and it's
also a mark of how bad Chelsea are.
Yeah,
it's also a mark of how bad Chelsea is.
Do you know what it is with this fixture? And David alluded to it. Chelsea, yes, they have been better in the bigger games. Arsenal, Liverpool couldn't go there and get 3 points. They beat Spurs the other day, but I just think it's City, and I think in every look, if you're playing the name of the team and the badge and the stadium and whatnot, yes, on paper it looks a bit crazy, but if you actually take the game for what it is and the players that Chelsea have right now, I think City. I don't even think City just win this. I think they win this comfortably. I think this is the first top 6 game where City just win comfortably, and I think in every department, I think it could be cagey quite early, but then once City have get that first goal,
was very comfortable for them.
My one thing with this fixture is compared to all the other top 6 fixtures, they just have a better midfield than we do. Like
I just realised what you said. I just realised what you said, Tom. I don't include United right now. No disrespect to Terry, but I wasn't even including that. So go on.
Like when we play United, Spurs, Arsenal, Liverpool, we've always had like a better, if not comparable, midfield. Whereas like City's midfield, I just think is better than ours. I'm not the biggest Bernardo Silva fan, but he's a very good player. And like Rodri is just very, very, very good. So it's going to be really hard to like control, like win that battle. And if we don't win that battle, then it's going to be very hard to get players like Cole.
Do you not trust Conor Gallagher to turn up for you?
Oh, don't start that man.
David, he's been one of your better players. He's been one of your better players.
He's scared of my club. He's bad, bro. He's bad. He's a bad.
How does it make you
David,
feel that every point you get helps
David.
us going forward in the next 3 weeks?
For you guys.
Exactly.
Conor Gallagher.
No,
is
David. Wait, quickly, Egal, quickly. Remove your agenda, David. Has he been good this season? Yes or no?
He has.
He's been for his level. He's been good, but that's it. Do you know who I said the same thing about? Mason Mount, and now look what he's doing at United.
Okay, Dave.
Let's stop with these strays at my club, please. You're in the mud. Leave me alone. Leave me alone.
If Enzo and Caicedo do their job defensively, and Conor Gallagher does his job being the pest, winning the ball high up the pitch, it allows your attack to win the ball high up the pitch and then be able to counterattack quickly against City. That's the only way you're really gonna capitalize on, or maybe set pieces. But I don't even know if set pieces you're that good at it. So Conor Gallagher and your midfield being on job is gonna be a hard ask. But if there's any player in your team that is going to work 100% the hardest throughout the whole game, and he's going to try to do his best, Conor Gallagher. I don't know who you're going to bring in.
Just to add on to that,
is not there.
David, quickly, just to add on to that as well. Chelsea are going to get chances here and there due to City having more of the ball. You're not going to get that much chances. Then the chances you do get, you're going to have to take. Chances you get in abundance on a normal game, you don't even take. So this is why I just see this being a comfortable win for City.
I have a different take on this whole game. I feel like City are a great team, but let's be honest, Chelsea are more suited to play teams like City and bigger teams that give them more space to allow them to counterattack.
Well, what's your take though, then, Egal? Are you saying that we're going to lose?
No, I'm saying you guys might draw. They might draw.
All of that.
I think Chelsea could get a point off this because let's be honest, Chelsea's defense has actually not been that bad this season. It's been the fact that they can't finish. Their midfield, their attack has been connecting. It's just they couldn't finish their chances. They make chances, and you want to know something? They score more of their chances against the bigger teams because those teams play more football and don't set up low blocks. If City is going to go there, they're not going to be defensive. They're going to be progressive. They're going to attack, and it's going to leave Chelsea an opportunity to catch them on the break. And if Chelsea can catch them on the break, they can get something from this game. It's not.
Wait, Gal, I have to caveat that.
A little voodoo on that too. Don't forget.
Sorry, I have to caveat that, Gal. You're saying they scored their big chance against the teams. Against us, they scored from a set piece. Against Spurs, they scored their 3 goals with 9 men. And against you lot, it was a fluke, as you say, it was a fluky cross and a penalty. So they don't score these free-flowing goals in the big games.
Guess what? In the big games, they show up.
Fair. You can't say they take their chances. And Gal, the thing is, I'm starting to rate Chelsea. I think they are improving week by week. I actually agree with some points that you make, but I just feel going forward, they're hardly going to get chances against City, and the ones they have to take, they won't. Therefore, I just think City will win this comfortably.
Yeah, I'm not saying chances here, guys.
Their chances against City. Their chance against City is not going to be where there's 4 players swarming on one player like there would be against Brentford or some of these other teams. They're gonna have opportunities to catch them, and you know what?
City can have great chances. Egal. City can have chances to score.
And you're going to have many more of them, LB.
But guess what? Chelsea's going to have to be very pessimistic in this game. They're going to have to be very, very defensive. And that's the only way they're going to do something. If they can keep this game close going into the final minutes, what's to say they can't get a jammy win or a draw?
What makes you think Chelsea will keep this game close against Manchester City?
Chelsea's strength is they have midfielders who are not creating all these amazing chances, but Enzo Caicedo and Conor Gallagher defensively are a good base for a midfield, and their center backs and their wingers and their fullbacks have been really good defensively.
Yeah, but you're not talking about City, Egal. Speak on City.
City this season have been what they usually are. They're really good attacking wise. They're really good defensively, and they're one of the best teams in the league. But as we've seen against Wolves and as we've seen against Arsenal,
no Rodri both games.
If you keep them close, and you have a defensive setup, you can find a way to get them.
No. That's them 2 games need to be forgotten about. We had no Rodri.
No, but how are we going to forget about the 2 games where you lost?
Well, because we played
they were missing the best player.
That is the blueprint on how to beat City.
Yeah, no, but we played a different system. We played a narrow system to pack out the midfield to compensate for the lack of Rodri. We're not going to do that against Chelsea because we've got Rodri.
It's like this again. Arsenal went to a game without Saka and then tried to play the same way, but with Eddie and Nketiah on the right wing. and then people try to throw that at you saying, "Oh, you can't attack
No,
down
no,
the
but
right."
guys, injuries are part of the game.
We
One
can't.
second. One second. We just said injuries are part of the game. Why is it that? Why is it out of the realm of possibility? Why is it out of the realm? I get it that Rodri's there. I'm not always defending Chelsea, but I'm merely saying it's not out of the realm of possibility. No, I said I don't always defend Chelsea, but it's not out of the realm of possibility that a team that's been decent defensively, that have, yes, they've struggled to score. If they get an opportunity, they'll be able to hold on.
Let's have it right. The reason why you're supporting Chelsea right now is because just like us, every point they win helps us.
Exactly.
That's exactly why you're supporting Chelsea right now. Just be honest about it.
I was just about to say that.
I also don't want people to forget that this is football, and it is always a possibility where the other team can do something.
No, of course,
but we can say that about every game. We can say that about every game.
No, but I'm giving you the blueprint on how they can capitalize on City. City are a great team. No one's taking away from how good City are. I just started my whole statement by saying,
I get you.
Sorry, my rebuttal quickly, Terry. My rebuttal to that is I understand everything. I would love nothing more than a Chelsea win, but you're saying Chelsea can have a smash and grab, whatnot, get these chances, but are they going to take these chances? That's exactly what they've not been doing this season. Is these chances they get, they can't finish in the back of the net. So I don't really get what your point is.
The quality of the chance that they're going to get against a team that is attacking them to the quality of the chance they're going to get against a team that's setting up a low block is different. That's my point.
I hear you, Egal.
I put 45 minutes of Chelsea getting put in on infinite one-on-ones against Tottenham.
Exactly, Tom. Exactly.
About half of them.
Exactly.
Guys, I understand what. Listen, I understand where Egal's coming from. I suppose all you've got to do is go a step further, Egal, and say, I think they'll get those chances, and I think they'll score more than City. You're just not quite going in on your opinion. You're leaving it. You the door's ajar. You're not quite walking through. So if you think they're going to get something, say it. But you're not there. Lewis, from your point of view, do you have any concerns about going to Stamford Bridge, or do you think this will be not an easy game, but are you confident of picking up those 3 points?
Of course I'm confident. I can't not be confident. You know what I mean? We've got a decent record there. I don't think they're clinical enough. I think Chelsea are not clinical enough in front of goal. I think City will create chances, and I think we'll win the game 3-0. I just think Egal's just completely.
I think you're being disrespectful to Chelsea.
Why am I? They finished 12th last year. They're currently sitting in.
No, it's not about. It's not about. 1 second. It's not about that they finished 12th. They have a midfield that is actually been good. They have a solid defense. Their attack is what's been poor. Don't think you're gonna go to their house and beat them 3-0.
Why?
I just told you their midfield and their defense.
So the midfield. So what about our midfield? What about you? This is what I'm saying. You're not taking into consideration any of our treble winning side. We've got Erling Haaland up top, and you're just completely ignoring the fact of this and just start acting like we're not going to create no chances.
Guess what? Their job for the 90 minutes is to neutralize the service that's going to Erling Haaland. If they can do that, it won't matter if Erling Haaland's on the pitch.
To be fair,
they got Doku too, who had like 37 GA last game. What are you talking about?
Doku's the one for me, and I people would take this a dig at Jack Grealish. Doku's doing for City what I thought Grealish would do.
No, but Terry, can I quickly rebuttal that though? And I think LV will agree. LV will agree. Recently, we know the saying in football, competition should normally raise your level, especially within your position of the field. Grealish has actually been, I don't know if you've seen recently, been trying to beat his man, be trying to do everything we wanted Grealish to be.
But that doesn't, for me, that doesn't debunk what I'm saying, that enhances it. So you're saying now Grealish is doing it because Doku is doing what I thought Grealish would do from day one. And there's so many things Grealish does that are beautiful. But for me, he didn't move the needle enough when it comes to creating chances and scoring goals regularly enough. Not saying he didn't score. Not saying he didn't create. Doku, for me, though, just looks...
Terry, what I now think...
Haaland's a danger man. Of course he is, putting the ball in the back of the net. But Doku, what I love about watching him play, he passes the eye test and he passes the statistical analysis of getting output for an attacker. He is doing both things. This kid's got the ability to be world-class because he's doing the two most important things. He's beating men, he's looking great, technically brilliant, and he's scoring and creating. And as an attacker... I don't really care about 95% of the other metrics. That is what you are judged on. What you create.
That's why I think. That's why I think.
He's got Mark Cucurella to deal with. And if not, it'll be Levi Colwill who should be a centre-back playing left-back.
Where do you think he'll go? Where do you think he'll play, Lewis, Doku? Do you think he'll start? And if so, will it be left or right?
I'd start him left-hand side. I'd start him left-hand side. Yeah, and I'd have Foden on the right.
RJ's
the last 20 minutes. It'll probably last 20 minutes. The fact is, this team is going to create chances. This team statistically will. Am I right? This team is going to create chances against Chelsea. The XG will be through the roof, man. And Egal just completely ignoring everything.
XG is the most overrated stat.
What about the XGA and the VMP 27,491 COVID-19?
MPXG minus XA plus the 37, you know.
Terry,
you're obviously a very intelligent man. Well, I'm a bit of a moron, so I don't even know what that means, brother. But sorry, Ron, what you saying, my bro?
Quickly, just back onto the Grealish, and of course, Doku's playing better at the moment. Some people think he's the better player, and he merits starting. But what I'm now trying to say is, now Grealish's pride's been a bit hurt. He's like, you know what Doku's doing, I should have been doing today. I've walked in. I know it's down to instruction, Pep telling him to do certain things. But what I now think now, Terry, is the next couple months, you'll see maybe a rise in Grealish GA because he's hurt. He's thinking, I need to get back in this team. And now it's going to be a selection headache.
So are we all going to admit I was right then? That he weren't producing enough GA. And that's all I've ever said about him. He was a bad footballer. I've just basically said, I think City would still have achieved what they've done in the last few years without Jack Grealish. I'm not saying with nobody else replacing him.
I agree.
Another good quality player there. I just wanted, and I only say it because he says a lot about Harry Kane. Harry Kane had the numbers, but I was so desperate for him to leave Tottenham because look what he's doing now at a giant club. The guy's on course to break the single season goal scoring record in Germany, and I think he'll do it as long as he stays fit. And he's going to become a legend. He's going to become an actual legend of football. And Jack Grealish, I looked at him and thought, look, he's part of a team that's won a treble. And I think his antics and his personality is amazing, and that makes him a star. But I wanted Jack Grealish, and I hate saying this because he's a City player, because I loved him as a player. I wanted him to be the star. I wanted him to be the man that was the actual poster boy. But it isn't. Rodri, KDB,
you think it's because he's not free enough?
All these guys. If you actually got City fans to be honest and say, if you could lose Rodri forever, or you lose Grealish forever. Every one of those comparisons to their top players, Grealish is picked to leave over all of those guys. And I wanted Grealish to be the main guy, is what I'm saying. That's why I have a pop.
Do you think it's because he's not free at City, though? I mean, is that the reason he's not free to be himself? Like at the Villa.
That was the excuse, but then Doku's free. That's why I've always said it's bullshit. Because Doku's come in, and it isn't like the manager's going, "Oh, Doku, get off the fucking pitch. Why are you dribbling past people, you bastard? Why are you scoring, Doku, you little cunt? Get off the pitch." But he ain't doing that. There's nonsense that Jack Grealish was held back by instructions, but Doku isn't. It's always been a lie. And we knew it was a lie. And I love Grealish. And I've always praised how good City are. But
if it goes the way of Sterling, we'll take him. 35, 40 million pounds.
Doku's a problem, though. Doku's a problem because this guy,
you know what frustrates me?
He comes on the pitch and he gives them a different element that they haven't had since Sane, I would say. So
do you know what annoys me? And Tom, you lot might not know this. LV probably does. He's done his research. Tom will know this. He came to. Yes, he came to Melwood. We gave him a tour. We could have.
Why didn't
and he actually wanted to come. I don't know. We wanted to come. Sadio Mane said to the club, "Look, I think we should sign him." And at the time, correct me if I'm wrong, Tom. I think it was only for about 25 million. Correct me if I'm wrong. It was within our remit.
Yeah, you know what? He rejected you, man. He wanted to wait for a proper club, innit? That's why he wanted a bit of
real football. If he's going on the left, he's got Reece James. If he's going on the right, he's got Kukurea. No worries.
Does he start?
No worries for me at all.
Does he start or does he come off the bench?
I'd start him. I'd start him on the left-hand side.
I don't see why you wouldn't start Jeremy Doku because he's the only winger in this league that, to me, is as frightening as what Leroy Sané used to be. And Sané used to be the only player who scared me going up against him because he can do you. City had this thing and everyone was praising him for it. Oh, look at how nice their wings are. It's all inverted. Sometimes you just need a winger who goes, "You're my fullback. I'm going to take it on and do you in."
Yeah.
That's all Doku does to a very, very high level. And now that he's adding the rest of it.
I love it. Boy, just have interest of time because I've really got to shoot in a minute. I've got to get through some of these super chats before we do the predictions. Evening, Terry, and everyone. Hope you're well. Thank you, Dinesh. Modric's fluke masterclass again, anyone? Oh, you mean not I thought you meant Modric. You mean Mudryk. Maybe. Egal twerking for Chelsea now. Good Lord, man, stand up. This German chicken wing says, "You're waffling, Egal. I bet you were not talking this way before Arsenal played Chelsea."
I was, Terry, remember?
He did say he could beat them. I fear Sir Jim will get rid of experienced players. I don't feel
You
what
should get rid of
listen,
all players. You should get rid
yeah,
of the
get rid of them
whole
all.
lot.
Let's just stop playing football. If we don't play football, I'm happy. Chelsea's best player has been Sterling. This is shame, is what Luke says here. Sasko says, I'm not trying to be rude, but stats is such an American thing in football. It doesn't matter. You can't project something going good or bad based on numbers. I think, listen, I'm going to defend Will here. You can. There's just two things. You can't just use statistics, I think, in any sport, no matter what you do, because I've played sport at a very high level and stats don't mean everything. But at the same time, if you're going to apply a logic using stats, you have to, because that's almost, I was about to say scientific, isn't it? It's mathematic, isn't it? If you do it to one, you have to apply that logic to everybody. Correct. But you don't, because you factor in what we know before eye test and everything else. So there is a place for stats in football. Because
I just try to be, when I'm comparing things, when I'm saying something's better than, right? If it's not just my preference, right? We all have preferences. Everybody likes this, that. Like my favorite player of all time is Ronaldinho. When I'm trying to be objective, if I'm making a claim, I like to back my claims up with evidence, because any claim made without evidence can be dismissed without evidence, right? We can just go back, yes, it is, no, it isn't, yes, it is, no, it isn't, right? There's no evidence.
Yeah.
So I back it up with the evidence. And the evidence, the only thing that's objective in football is the stats. So that's what I use.
It is, but the stats in themselves can be manipulated based on...
manipulate them.
No, of course. So it depends. It depends on the stats you present. So saying that Maguire to start for Man United because he's got a 93 win percentage, we've all seen this stat done to our clubs at some point. Where I remember they did to Liverpool loads when they were like Liverpool with Gerrard, Liverpool without Gerrard, their win percentage is higher. Yes, the only
It's
time
actually an informal logical fallacy called lying with statistics.
No, of course, we all know that, but sometimes people will get a stat and go, well, "I've got a fact as to why my opinion is right." But you delve into the facts, and the fact's got flaws in it. It's not a fact; it's created. This Will guy is delusional, masked in waffle. The most deluded person I've heard talk on the panel. Lol, that's a compliment coming from some of these people. Thank you for the super chat. A big up Terry and the panel, except Spurs fan. It's pantomime. It don't mean anything. Terry, okay, we've already done that one there. Would you take Saliba over Romero? I mean, of course he would. He thinks of course he wouldn't. He thinks Romero's better. Yeah. Maguire plays well for England, but crap for his club. It's a great point. May I ask the top 5 predictions from the panel until will United finish? Well, Man United are in nobody's top 5, I would believe. I'll go to one person on this because I've really got to shoot in a minute. I'm so sorry. I've got an appointment. Tom, who would you pick in your top 5 this year?
City, Arsenal, Liverpool, Tottenham 4th, and then Newcastle 5th.
There we go. He also said Romero is better. Okay, already done that one. Sorry, bro. Your creative force is injured. If it was Maddison or bust. You can't take the Spurs out. The Spurs in 3 or 4 months. Downfall incoming. Nice purple patch though is what Ginger Bish has got to say here. Won't be surprised if Basuma plays centre back versus Wolves.
Playbear would do it before him.
That is the worst thing you could do.
We've done quite well so far, considering the amount of injuries we've had this season. We haven't had our strongest 11 playing together, is what George says. He was a gooner. The idea that before this, people would say there are 2 ways to play with 9 men, and one of them was putting the entire team on the halfway line. Lol. Well, maybe he's an innovator. Maybe we don't know yet. Maybe in 5 years, all our clubs are going to be doing this when we get 2 players sent off.
Did a lot of things nobody ever did before.
This is true. Chelsea, sorry, not Chelsea. It says cheers, Terrence, and the panel. Happy Diwali. I didn't know it was Diwali today. Well, happy Diwali to everybody that's celebrating. Do you think Erik ten Hag has hampered his chances to manage big clubs again? Yes, in his Ajax days, but what now? Maybe slightly, but I think he will leave when the new ownership come in. But I think he'll go on and have a good career. I just think it's right love, wrong time. Big up Barry Manilow for that quote. Angie's hairline is more idiotic than safe. Your hairline would only be idiotic if you gave it to yourself. No, we shouldn't be attacking men for being follically challenged. Highline. I read hairline. I'm dyslexic. I'm very sorry. As I told you, I'm thick.
Well, I have hair, but I shave my head. So
there we go. Nothing wrong with being bald. Quick score predictions for the big match. I'm going to go to Will first. Chelsea City. What you saying, bro?
Chelsea City, I think City are going to win it. There's a small chance for a draw, but it's very small. But I'm going to say Chelsea or City 2-0.
Little Tom?
Let's just have a laugh and go City 5-1.
Jeez. Egal.
1-1.
1-1. Roms?
3-1 City.
Jeez. I'm going to go to Lewis.
3-0 City.
3-0. David?
2-1 Chelsea. Yeah!
I'm going to go with 2-2. I'm just going to throw it out there. No logic. None at all. I'm just going to throw 2-2
Just hope it
out there.
sticks. Just hope it
He
sticks.
did
innit?
Yeah. 2-2. Just feel like it. Listen, I want to thank everybody that's tuned in today. I really do appreciate it. All the super chatters, everybody who has smashed the like button, everybody that has tuned in. I want to say thank you to Will, David, Lewis, Egal, Tom Little, and of course, Rom's on the panel tonight. But the viewers, of course, this is your platform. You are the community. So thank you all very, very much indeed. Back tomorrow with match reactions for you for the Spurs game and the Arsenal and Manchester United games in the afternoon. Until next time, take care, goodbye, God bless, and we'll see you all again soon. Peace.